And we are alive. Hello everyone, this is My Two Cents and welcome back to my channel. I got a pretty unique stream this evening. As many of you know, about 2 weeks ago I made a response video to a YouTube video that was put out a couple months ago by Jenna Harmon. The following week I made another response video that I mistakenly thought was a response to me, although it turns out it was not. My bad on that one. But although I still felt I had things that were worth saying in that video, and Jenna actually then responded to me. I asked her if she was willing to come on my channel and have a discussion about the issues with men and women dating today as we both see it, and she agreed. So we're going to have a good, respectful discussion here, but before we get started, Jenna, if you just want to go ahead and introduce yourself, who you are, what your channel's about, and then we'll go ahead and get into it.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. My name is Jenna. I am a content creator, singer-songwriter. I'm on all music streaming platforms, and I'm just kind of starting my channel. I haven't been posting too much, and I'm trying to figure out what I want to do primarily, but I kind of talk about just dating and my perspective on what I've experienced dating, and I kind of want to open the conversation there on my channel with that, and, open to constructive criticism and all that good stuff. So it's kind of a big sister perspective, if that's what you want to call it.
Okay, awesome. So I'll roll right into it. I've made notes for myself as I don't want to get too long-winded, but I'm going to basically summarize what I see as the main issues men and women both complain about dating today and what I think the problem really is. So as a man, I can say most men at their, especially when they're young men, struggle at some point in their life with the fact that they can't seem to garner attention from the women that they want to date. It seems they're looking at other guys that seem to have no trouble garnering female attention. They're really into a girl or however many girls, and no matter where what they try to do, they feel like they're striking out every time. But what I can say is the experience of most men is if you start to whine before long, yeah, you're going to get a slap on the wrist and someone's going to point out to you, look, you aren't owed anything. And the sooner life's not fair, the sooner you come to accept that, the more satisfying your relationships are going to be. And I'll say in my own experience, when I came to that realization, my dating life improved significantly. There's it's often called the Serenity Prayer, but attributed to American theologian Reinhold Niebuhr, but it goes like this: God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And that is really what I've said. If you're a man, you're having trouble dating, if you can just come to accept that, look, you can't control whether or not a girl's attracted to you. If she's not interested, move on. And moreover, understand you're not owed anything. And I think most men sooner or later come to that realization. Right. Further, men are told unequivocally that they are only as valuable as what they earn. If they want attention from women, then they'd better be prepared to be the kind of man a woman wants. If you live in your mother's basement, smoking weed and playing video games, you shouldn't be surprised that girls aren't interested in you. And I think you don't have to go far. Every man hears that at some point or another in life. On the other hand, in our culture today, I hear women being frequently told that no matter where they are in life, they are prizes to be won. They are perfect just the way they are. You are beautiful, you're wonderful, and any man would be lucky to have you. And in fact, I don't want to make it too much about my own personal experience, but I remember sitting in youth group in church as a teenager, and when we would separate the boys and girls to deal with the men's and women's issues that you were having, men were told that our greatest vice is our tendency to view women as sexual objects. Women, on the other hand, were told that their greatest vice was a lack of self-esteem. In other words, their greatest vice was that they don't think highly enough of themselves. So kind of a contrast of how men and women are raised. Now, women are taught, largely speaking, they can have it all. A career, marriage, kids, there are no trade-offs. Right. And this isn't something I'm angry about. It's not meant as an insult. It's just the way it is. Men are inherently polygamous, women are inherently hypergamous. So men left in their natural state tend to be attracted to every attractive woman they come into contact with. Women, on the other hand, are always drawn to the highest quality men that they see. And there are various standards that you might appeal to, but generally speaking, there are certain things that most women find attractive, whether it's that he be taller, in better shape, higher status, makes more money. But you can also crunch the math and figure out that when considering the kind of traits that women at large find attractive in men, The category of men that meet all the characteristics that women find as high value are actually quite small. For example, look on any Tinder profile, you're going to find most girls that prefer men who are 6 feet tall or taller, which is fine, but also that's only about 14% of men. So if you're a woman and you say, I want to marry a man who's 6 feet tall or taller, great, you've just eliminated 86% of all men.
Right.
Another thing, okay, I want a man with a high income, something like $100,000 a year or more. Now, if you crunch the math on that, only about 15% of men make $100,000 a year or more. So you've just eliminated at least 85% of men in that point. But you want a man who's both 6 feet tall and makes $100,000 a year. Do that math, that's about 2% of men. So as you can see, the more boxes, it's not wrong for women to be attracted to these certain characteristics, but the more characteristics you add to the kind of man you want, the smaller the percentage of men that actually meet these characteristics comes to be. Now, there was a time in society where the vast majority of women were unwilling to give up sex before marriage. Simply put, I'm not putting out until you put a ring on it. And in that case, even if the highest quality men were attracted to all these different women, they realized sooner or later, I'm not getting any if I don't man up and get married. So the more attractive people pair off into couples. Those that are left pair into couples. And generally speaking, society is full of families that then have children and raise stable children. However, in our modern culture, where it's socially acceptable to have premarital sex, we find that that women, largely speaking, reach the age of about 18 to 25 when their youth, physical beauty, and fertility is at its peak. And you are attractive to the widest swath of men find you most attractive at that point in your life. And due to the modern convenience of the internet, whereas most women were competing for the men in their individual town, in their individual community. Now, because of Instagram, Tinder, whatever else have you, it's much easier for attractive women between the ages of 18 and 25 all across the country to end up meeting and these high-status men from all over the place. And as a result, the average woman, in my opinion, tends to develop an overinflated sense of self-worth. She's able to talk to these various men. They show interest in her. They're willing to take her to bed. And she starts to think to herself, wow, I must really be worth something. Look at all these men who are messaging me. Look at all these men who are interested in me. I must really be that valuable. And during that period, she ends up, a large amount of women end up sharing the attention of a few high-status men rather than developing long-term relationships with any one man. Now, of course, but then between the ages of about 25 and 30, a woman notices an unmistakable drop in the level of attention she's receiving from men. Because we all age, can't be avoided. The things that made you attractive to those high-status men are starting to drop. And in the manosphere community, it's often called the epiphany phase, but she starts to realize she can't play the game forever. And this is the point in life. I don't see a lot of women between the ages of 18 and 25 making videos, where are all the good men? I see plenty that are over the age of 25, particularly more 28, 29, 30, who start making these videos, making these complaints, where are all the good men? Where'd they go? And she switches from a pattern of serial monogamy, going from dating this guy, dating this guy, dating this guy, to trying to lock down a man for marriage. Now, she's dated a lot of guys at this point, and she's developed very high standards. Only problem is, now the men that meet those standards no longer find her attractive because they've shifted their attention to the younger women who are just coming into their prime. And those few men that are the highest value, they really see no reason to settle down. If all they're looking for is to get laid, then they can keep getting laid, and with girls that are now younger than the women in question. So the woman's wondering, where are all the good men? She starts to claim she's looking for traditionally valued traits like commitment, leadership, fatherhood. But in reality, she's complaining about the fact that the men she has valued up to this point don't value commitment. Because there are in fact other men out there at this point who would be willing to marry her. They just don't meet the standard she's developed from dating all these other men. I said I'm going to try to keep myself from getting too long-winded. Just got a few more points. So sometime around the age of 30, a woman hits what in the manosphere has come to be called the wall. And basically what that means is once you're post-30, basically you can diet, you can work out, but it's obvious to men that you're no longer in your prime. The youth, beauty, fertility, the things that made you so attractive to such a wide swath of men are gone. And despite the fact that your standards for men are now higher, but your means of attracting those men is now rapidly waning. When she gets to her mid-30s, she starts to grow even more desperate and may choose to marry a man that she sees as less than ideal because she's in need of financial support. But she's incapable of respecting this man because he lacks all the characteristics of the high-quality men that she dated in her 20s. So she tends to treat him poorly, not respect him, and ultimately lead on to divorcing him. Now, in divorce, I don't think it shouldn't be controversial to anyone who's researched. Divorce courts overwhelmingly favor women in society today. So those men that are interested in marriage know that if I get married at all, it's at a huge personal risk. If my wife decides to divorce me for just about any reason, she could quite possibly take half my assets, full custody of my children, claim that I was abusive or whatever else, and they'll take her word for it. And what's worse, women begin to push for government policies that then force taxpayers to pay for the consequences of their bad decisions, be it medical problems, the children they have out of wedlock, etc. And now we find an ironic situation where we've got tons of women in their late 30s and 40s who are overweight, on welfare, children from multiple fathers, still holding out to the dream of marrying a high-status man, whereas, and plenty of men who are just saying, you know what, this ain't worth it, peace out, I'm not interested in getting married. My point being, everyone is free to do whatever you want. I really have no problem with women valuing certain traits in men, whether I possess those traits or not, whether any other men possess those traits or not. You're not owed anything. You can make whatever decision you want, but those decisions do have consequences. And when the time comes, you can't go crying that I just had no idea this was going to happen. So that is, in my opinion, why I think so many modern women have problems securing commitment from a man, and when the time comes that they actually want it. And if you ask me, the result is quite predictable, given when you understand male and female nature. So that is my intro. I will give you the floor, Jenna. You're free to respond.
Wow, yeah, that was a lot. I understand a lot of your points that you made, and from your perspective, and I think I agree with a lot of it too. I think going back to one of your original points that you brought up, which was most women find most men unattractive. I would ask the question, like, why, from like a man's perspective, like, why do you think that is? Like, why do you think, in your experience dating, or not even you don't even have to ask or like answer that personally, but like, what have you been told things from that perspective?
Well, I'd say no. That particular study I referenced was done by OkCupid, and basically they looked at all the decisions their users were making, and they found that women on the site, and it's one of the more popular dating sites, rated 80% of men not as average, but
Wow.
actively unattractive. And
Wow.
in my opinion, I'd say it's because, I mean, generally speaking, there are certain factors that women find attractive in men, be it that they're tall, be it that they are high status, be it they make money or muscular or whatever else. And especially in today's, like I said, in today's day and age, given the fact that most women can reach out beyond the individual communities in which they live, it's much easier to get into communication with those kinds of men. Now, I don't think a lot of people treat this like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it, but it seemed pretty obvious to me. There's never been a time in history where there weren't men who were interested in having lot of different sexual partners and lots of attention from men. I mean, if you say 50 Shades of Grey is the female fantasy, then James Bond is the male fantasy. I mean, every guy in his own mind wants to be the man who's just irresistible, and every woman falls in love with him. But it allows these few men that meet all those characteristics can get in contact with a lot of different women. A lot of women manage to communicate with a man like this, whether they actually hook up with him or not. But it's well noted. It's a lot easier for women to get matches on dating sites than it is men. Women are a lot more selective than men are, and they start to believe the fact that they are able to talk to, hook up with whatever with these high status men as they see it, proves that they really are extremely valuable, that they're a catch for marriage, even if he's only looking to get laid or whatever else it is.
Right.
But if they're choosing to only interact with these few high status men, they're largely ignoring a lot of other men that would be interested, but they might not be interested in. And again, I'm not saying, I don't believe they're entitled. Those men are entitled to their interests.
Right.
But I think of, for example, in my own church community, I can think of a distinct circumstance where there was a woman complaining to one of the leaders in the church, I just can't stand how few men there are who are interested in marriage.
Right.
The leader points out to her,
Wow.
well, she actually names someone in the church that is a single man who is, in my opinion, I don't know, average-looking guy, and very strong and grounded in the faith. And when she heard him say that, I mean, it looked like she wanted to vomit. That he would have the audacity to think she would be interested in someone like that. I mean, oh my gosh, I can't believe it.
Wow.
And that's not and from the various men's communities I've looked at, I find a lot of similar, whether it's Reddit threads, whether it's blogs like Doll Rock or Winter Unite, you can find a lot of men telling similar stories. So I think majority of men are really invisible to the majority of women, and I think most women don't think they rate 80% of men as actively unattractive, but they also barely see the men around them. I mean, that's my opinion.
Right. Yeah, that's such a big perspective shift for me, because I haven't, like, I'm just being honest, like, I haven't really had too many discussions like this with men before, so I do understand, and, like, I didn't see it as that before, but I could understand how it could be like that before, and I don't think a lot of women see it like that. Like, I'm just gonna, like, throw us women under the bus. I don't think we see it like that. I think that we see it like what you said, like, we have kind of been told, like, we can have it all, we can't, like, we can do this, we can do that, and I believe in certain parts of those, but I think one of the issues with dating, and, this is me calling certain parts of my dating life out too, like, I'm not, just calling everyone else out. I think since we have been told that, I think it would be beneficial for everyone to hear that, so it's kind of just like an eye opener. But then it's like, what's the solution then? Like, should you talk to someone, like, if a woman approached you, like, let's flip the gender role, or let's flip, like, the genders. Like, if a woman tried to approach you, and I don't know if you're single or dating, but let's say you're single, and you were not attracted to a woman, but someone was just saying, yeah, but she's this, she's that, lists all these good characteristics, she has a lot of good qualities, this and that, but you're not physically attracted to her, and you couldn't really picture yourself being, like, intimate with her, or whatever. Like, what's the solution there? Should you, I don't like to use the word settle, but that's the word that society has kind of gripped us on using. Like, should you settle, or should you keep looking? And again, I don't know, like, your age, and that doesn't matter, but let's say you were, you know, reaching or past your prime. It's like, should you settle? Like, I don't know what the solution is there. So,
Okay.
like, what should you tell people to do?
Okay, I'd say the answer is every person has to decide what is most valuable to you in a relationship. Because if we're honest, we all in our mind have this picture of what we see as the ideal partner. But I think the solution is you have to decide what's most important to you. Now, in my case, and I'd say if a man is interested in marriage, you absolutely have to value certain things more than physical attraction. And as important as physical attraction is to most people, physical beauty fades in 100% of individuals. And to put it bluntly, if the primary reason you're in a relationship with someone, in a long-term relationship with someone, a committed relationship, and marriage, I believe, is to be the ultimate commitment, if the primary foundation of that relationship is physical attraction, then you will literally watch as the foundation of your relationship disappears. Physical beauty fades, and quite often it fades much sooner than we thought it would. So I'd say the solution is, whether you're a man or a woman, you've got to decide what's really most important to you. Now, as a marriage-minded man, I can say some of the things that I see as most important to me, and I found that there are other men that would concur. For example, I listed it in the video, and I've talked about it quite a bit, but I am not willing to settle for a woman who's not a virgin. Studies have done, there are extensive studies that have been done on this, that pretty much one of the strongest factors that determines whether or not the marriage is going to be a success is whether or not both the man and the woman, but particularly the woman, is a virgin prior to marriage. And in fact, the more sexual partner she has prior to marriage, the more likely the marriage is to end in divorce. And I'll note that even the left-leaning Huffington Post admitted to that, so I'm pretty confident in the consensus on that particular point. Marriage-minded men are generally not interested in women who are focused on their career. Now, I don't think it's wrong. I don't think women should be barred from having careers, as some people would advocate. But I would say if I meet a woman who's really into and focused on having a career, that's kind of a turnoff to me. It's not. I'd prefer to be with a woman who is less physically attractive than one who is more physically attractive but really focused on her career. As I mentioned in my video, women who enjoy social media attention are less likely to be faithful. If a woman's a huge Instagrammer, she's got tons of followers, getting hundreds of DMs from other men, again, I think she should have the right to do that, but that's really not something I'm really not interested in being in a long-term relationship with a woman like that. I know, because I know she loves the attention. It's going to be much harder for her to stay faithful. And also, a woman's self-control. What kind of values does she have? If you're a Christian, I want a woman who's is well-grounded and knowledgeable of Christian theology and values, and is able to pass that on to my children. And perhaps, like, one thing I'd list here, in my experience and in opinion, I'd say one of the best indicators that's going to show whether or not a woman is marriage material, what kind of relationship does she have with her father? And what kind of man is her father? Because those looking at people in my life who I respect and trust who have successful marriages, quite often the woman is looking for, if she was close to her father growing up, if he was a good man who embodied the kind of values you want in a husband and a father, if he was cared for her and taught her to value those kind of things, in all likelihood that is something that's going to have become a part of her, and she's going to be looking for those same characteristics in a man, as opposed to being physically attractive. And I think all these, again, I know I'm getting a little long-winded here, but all these women that are complaining, where are all the good men? My opinion is, have they been actively looking for the characteristics in a man that they wanted as far as a husband and a father when they were younger, 18 to 23? They neglected and they chose to put those things above whether or not they are physically attracted to them. They would have been able to secure a husband who was both physically attractive, I mean, maybe not the top tier, and had the good qualities of a husband and a father. But the longer they wait, the more they date in between, and the longer past the wall they get when they decide to start, finally when their youth and beauty is gone, and they're now choosing to look for men who can be providers, fathers, husbands. The pick's going to be pretty sparse, and they might have to accept the fact that the men that are left that are still going to be interested aren't going to be what they want as far as physical attraction and everything else. But it just seems to me the modern woman is completely unwilling to do that.
Okay, yeah, there's a lot of points there. So first I want to talk about hitting the wall. So that's a term that I recently got aware of, and I am in the beauty industry, so I am excited to talk about this. So hitting the wall, a lot of what I've heard, it sounds like a lot of people think once you hit a certain age, it's just bam, you're done, you're gone, there's no hope for you, you're screwed, you're going to look like a piece of crap. And from a professional perspective in the skin industry, because an esthetician is a licensed skin therapist, I'm licensed in the state of New York, that is something that is spoken about in these communities. And I kind of want to just give a little bit of facts, like right off the base for that. There's so many things like aging now. Yes, I understand the communication that you're trying to give with that term, but aging now, it's not exactly what aging was 100 years ago. There are so many people now that, that are 40 that look like they're 20. I have a friend that's 42. She literally looks younger than I do. It's like if you are concerned about aging, and this is for men too, like skincare is really important. Like collagen starts breaking down in your skin. And you need to be put on a retinol. Like there's so many things that if you start it soon, you can really age gracefully. And that's the whole term, aging gracefully. So, there's certain age points that you get whenever, like if you hit 25, 26, like 32, different things that chemically start happening in your skin. But if you get on a good skincare regimen and you start doing all of that, like you can really like stop and freeze a lot of the process. And that's why I don't think it's fair to compare, you know, 8, 9, and 10s that are celebrities, you know, with, you know, oh, there's these women that are so attractive, this and that, and then they just hit the wall. And it's almost like some of the communities in similar channels like yours, I'm not saying you've done this, but they'll compare like women that are 8, 9s, and 10s, with women that have hit the wall that are average women. And it's not even fair because these 8, 9, and 10s are women in celebrity industries and skincare industries that know the hacks, that know all of these things to age gracefully. And these other women don't know it because they're not in those environments. So, this, like, I guess my thing is, yes, there's a prime for fertility. I don't, I like, I've talked to my doctor about that, and the number was different than the number that you mentioned, but I guess I don't know how deep you want to get into that. My best friend is actually in medical school too, and I've talked to her about that. Um, there's like just like a lot of different numbers, you know, with that. So I just think that yes, we should be careful with, you know, not waiting too long to maybe settle down and all that stuff, but also not using that as something to make someone afraid and like just feel like, you know, at one you're just going to hit the wall, because it doesn't happen overnight. You know, it happens with time, and it happens with men too, and men need to get on that too. You know, I've started a lot of close men within my family on skincare regimens and stuff like that, so that's something too in the whole, I guess, conversation, that like learn how to take care of yourself. Learn how to, like, even if you are a Christian, like God calls you to treat your body as a temple. Like, take care of yourself. That's something that I learned in aesthetic school, is like you need to learn how to really take care of your skin. And like that goes back to so many things, even like something simple like skin cancer. Like, did you know skin cancer is like one of the skin cancers that is almost 90% preventable? Like, you're in charge of that. Like, use your SPF, brother. You know, like protect your skin like every single time you're outside. Like, if you don't put sunscreen on, like that will age your skin so much. Like, I'm talking years and years and years. So there's little hacks, and I don't want to get too far into, you know, that whole thing, but I
Okay, and,
guess
and and I think the point you're making here, which is entirely fair, is that I mean the wall isn't some hard thing that the moment you turn 30 you're going to become ugly. But as some people in the chat are already pointing out, the wall isn't just about physical beauty. There are a number of other things going here. If a marriage-minded men are interested in having healthy children, well, a woman's fertility starts to drop after 30, and it rapidly drops after 35. But for me, the wall isn't all about physical attractiveness either. It's the fact that nonetheless, I think women who work hard, who treat their body well, can remain attractive for women their age. But it nonetheless remains the case that the vast majority of men are most attracted to those women in their prime, the 18 to 25 time range. Leonardo DiCaprio, a great example, has famously said he's never dated a woman that's over 25, and every time his girlfriend hits that age, he trades her out for another one. And being a man of high status, he's an actor, makes a ton of money, good looking, he can get away with that because there are enough women that are interested in him
right,
in
but
that
is
regard.
that right? You know, it's like you have to ask yourself, is that like, do you want someone that just throws you out like you're a piece of trash?
I would say no, but again, these women are willfully choosing to date him, knowing that that's what he's done. So,
Right.
who's really at? I mean, you can say what he's doing is morally wrong, but who's really at fault? I mean, no, it's well documented that he does this, and these women continue to
Right.
date him. So, who's at fault there?
Right. Yeah. I mean, but that's another thing, because people look up to him. Some people look up to him as leadership role, as, you know, influencer status, or just an example as a man. And I'm sure people look up to the women that he, you know, dates too. And then it's like, what about that? What about that? You know, even on a lot of different channels that I've watched, they almost excuse certain behaviors with men because of you know, finances or different high value. It's like, okay, well, there's also a difference between good character, like a high character man, a high value man. You know, like there's so many different components to that. Just because someone makes a certain amount of money doesn't mean that they are husband material. Like, I've denied so many men that are multi-millionaires, okay, that have wanted to be with me, that have wanted to be in a relationship, work towards marriage with me, and guess what? I don't say yes to them. And it's not because like there's so many different factors. Like for me, like I'm looking to be in a marriage, and it doesn't matter to me if you are just so rich. Like money's important, I'm not going to lie, like it is important, okay? But guess what, if you like, it's not the most important thing for me. Like if you don't have a lot of the other qualities that I'm looking for, and if you're not husband material, at the end of the day, you could have all the money in the bank account, but you're not going to be a good father to my kids. Like you're going to end up cheating on me, like you're going to end up, like, like all these things. So I think it's like it does go back to what do you want and what are you willing to sacrifice. So in some instances, and I know this with some of the girlfriends that I've talked to, like yeah, like he makes a lot of money, yeah, he's super attractive, or yeah, this, and you list certain things that are pretty um common that you say women want, but you can't say yes to those things because he doesn't have the other qualities. So it does go back to what you said, which is what are you willing to sacrifice. But I do not think that just because a man makes $10 million a year, that makes him a good husband or a good father. Like I definitely don't think that, or a good partner. So I think,
Okay.
yeah.
And I would agree, but I would say what I see happening the vast majority of times is, and women like you will agree. I think just because he's attractive, just because he makes a lot of money, doesn't make him a good father. But mysteriously, it seems the vast majority of women, at least the ones that are most vocal, only seem to come to this realization once they're 26, 27, 28 years old, and they've already had time to have fun with all those men. Now, they say with their words that what they're really looking for is a man who's going to be a good father, going to be a good husband, who is a man of character and has values. But their actions don't match up with that. You can say that's what you're looking for all you want. If you continue chasing these same men, demanding that they change, because that is really what I see happening the vast majority of time. The woman who says, I'm done playing around, I want a nice guy, but she keeps going back to all these attractive, high status men by her perspective, and saying, complaining they shouldn't treat me this way, they treat me so poorly, that's wrong. Well, you can point out, well, what about all these other guys over here who do have those values and would be willing to date you? And then again, it's just like she wants to vomit. I can't believe you'd think I would date someone like that. I'm not attracted to them. Okay, well, that seems to me to be a pretty explicit admission that while you say what you're looking for as a man of character and who's going to be a good husband, a good father, when push comes to shove, you're really looking for those other attributes, whether it's being physically attractive, having money, or having everything else. And I'd say one of the biggest aspects of the wall, in my opinion, is not just a woman's physical attractiveness, but the fact that once she is older, she's past that prime and in her 30s, she's probably dated a number of men. And if she's looking to settle down, whoever she's going to settle down with, you have to know she is going to be actively comparing you to every other guy she dated. Now, maybe the first guy she dated was really physically attractive, but didn't have a lot of money. Now, the next guy she dated had a ton of money, wasn't quite as physically attractive. The next guy, some other trait. Now she's 35 years old and wants to settle down. Well, now she wants a guy. Her standards keep getting higher every guy she dates. She wants a guy who's as attractive as the first guy, as rich as the second guy, something
Right.
else, and has husband and father qualities. But all the things that make her most attractive to a man are dwindling. And I have to say, in my honest opinion, I'd look at a woman like that and say, hey, you gave your best years to other men. What do you have left to offer me? Statistically, you're far more likely to divorce me. That's a pretty big risk. I don't see it being the case. So, and to sum up, in my opinion, yes, I think women would be better off if they chose to value the character traits more than those other characteristics. But in practice, what they say doesn't match their actions.
But then that leads up to divorce. Like you said, there's a lot of divorce. And again, I don't quote me on the numbers and all that stuff, because I'm with my family right now at a lake house. Like I haven't had the chance to like go over all those things. But just in conversation with some of my friends, like divorce rates are super, super high, right? And like there was a study that my friend sent me. I'll have to find it and then repost it. But it was about spouses not ending up being attracted to their partner. So it's like, okay, well, what if that's the case? And then you marry someone because you decide to value those characteristics over attractiveness. And then later on, you end up getting divorced, but it's because you did, and again, I don't like to use the word settle, but it's because you settled in those areas, and then it's divorce rates go up, and then it's like you're splitting the family up, and it's like who gets the kids, and you're starting destruction. And it's like how freaking bad does that suck? So it's like what solution is better then? Because there's always going to be something that really tears people apart or brings people from becoming together. So it's like I don't feel comfortable telling someone, you should do this, you should do that. That's why I always tell people, like, you got to do what you think is best for you, because at the end of the day, the decisions that you make and the outcomes that you're going to reach, it's going to be from your choices. And divorce is like a heavy topic. I have a lot of people that I know that their parents went through divorces, and it was just absolutely terrible. Families broke up. Like, there's so much that goes into that. And like you said, I do think that the systems are set up where I can understand like how it is against men and all of that. Like, that seems very scary, but at the same time, it's like, I mean, I don't know what the solution to that is either. Like, I don't know all the numbers. Like I said, I haven't had a chance to really dive into that. But from the woman's perspective, it's like, okay, well, I gave my body up. I don't actually have kids, you guys. I'm just saying, like in general, as a woman, like, okay, I gave my body up. I had 4 kids. Like, now we're deciding to get divorced, and I feel like I have nothing. So then it's like, then what's the solution? And then it's like, well, you said you don't want a woman that works. It's like, I couldn't even build a career because you told me that I couldn't work. So it's like, I feel like there's so many pieces to this puzzle that just aren't fitting together. And it's like, I think there's a miscommunication with standards and with what's the word I'm looking for? Expectation. No, there's a word. It's on the tip of my tongue, but I can't even think of it. But just to create community and like create healthy relationship. Like, is any of those things making sense to you that I said?
It is, but I want to ask you a question. So you said you said there was a study, and you didn't know quite which one it was, but it stated that one of the major reasons people were getting divorced is because they are no longer attracted to their partner. Was that correct?
Right. Yeah.
All right. So answer this question for me. Do you think it is ever acceptable to divorce your spouse because you're no longer attracted to them?
I don't think that would be like a valid reason personally. I think if you married someone, like, you're committing again, and if you're religious or not, like, that might have a big take onto it too. But if you do believe in God, and if you do marriage based on what God says, like, that's a vow that you make. So I think that's why it's important before you get married to really like date well. Like, you got to date well. And this is, I don't know, maybe, I mean, I'm sure you'll agree with some of these points, but like, be intentional. Who are you giving your time to? Like, that's why I don't think it's wise to say yes to every single person that DMs you, or like say yes to every single person that asks you out on a date, because ultimately, like, you're choosing to give your time to someone, and you could end up with them. And if you don't really like them, I'm sorry, but I don't think that you should marry them, because it's not going to end well for you. Like, that's just my take on it. Like, I think you should be so enthusiastic about your spouse. I think that you should be excited to be in your marriage, and you should be attracted to them. And the more that you get to know someone, yes, attraction will go up. That's like a natural thing. But I don't think that by itself is enough for divorce, personally.
Okay. Well, personally, what I'd say is this: if and again, I don't demand that everyone out there share my values. I know my channel is not a Christian channel, and not all my audience are Christians. But I'd say if you enter a marriage with the opinion that if I'm no longer attracted to my spouse, it's acceptable to divorce them, that marriage was doomed from the start. Because as I said, physical beauty fades in 100% of individuals. Maybe it happens sooner for some, maybe it happens later, but the fact is both of you are going to get old, and if the primary thing that is holding your relationship together is that physical attraction, then you will literally watch as the foundation of your relationship disappears. I believe that in societies past, it was understood that marriage was a covenant not to be broken. Like, the divorce was unthinkable. You'd be socially shunned for not making it work out. And I don't have the study present, but it's on my blog. I can send it to you later if you want. The Institute for Family Values did a study about this, about couples who split compared to couples who didn't. And what they determined was, it seemed the factor that differentiated couples who got divorced from couples who didn't was the marriage endurance ethic. That those couples that were absolutely positively committed to always staying together no matter the problem, they were able to stay together not because they solved their marital problems, but because they stubbornly outlasted them. And some surprisingly bad marital problems, be it infidelity, abuse, anything else, were able to be solved just by the commitment of both parties to never throw in the towel. So, and personally, I think unless both parties actually have that benefit, share that value going into the marriage, odds are it ain't gonna work out. And if you're at all interested, I have a series on my channel called Defending Traditional Marriage, in which I state that I believe that for any marriage, if you really wanted a marriage to be successful, I would ask both parties that are looking to get married this question: are you willing to? If we actually created a legal contract that said that if in the event divorce becomes necessary, the party who initiates divorce loses their rights to everything. Like, I don't care if the other spouse is actively abusing you, whatever the situation is. If you are the one who filed for divorce, you lose it all. 100% of the marital assets, full custody of the children, go to the party that wanted to keep the marriage intact. Would you be willing to sign it? Now, a lot of people I talk to are just horrified. How could you do that? What if the person was abusive? What if this or that? And my question is, well, how well did you vet them? Because if you really vetted them well, if you were both committed to keeping it together, then only if it's so bad that you're willing to lose it all, would I be convinced that it actually is that bad, as opposed to working out your problems.
Right. I mean, and I'd say for the most part, I do agree with that. I think that's why intentional dating is important, and like not just saying yes to every man or woman that, tries to get your attention. However, I actually do know one person, and I don't know a lot of these stories, so I don't think it's like this most of the time, but I do know one woman that she was dating this guy for like 2 years and everything was great, and then as soon as they got married, he actually did start being abusive towards her, and it was like this really sad story. They didn't end up getting divorced yet, and I won't get too heavy into the details on that, but just for an example, that is, I guess, a story where it's the opposite of what usually happens. So that does happen sometimes. The vetting process, it's important, and I want to teach women that, and I want to, I mean, even men, that it's like, you should be careful, like whoever you link up with, like that is going to be one of the most important decisions that you make, that is going to influence your whole life. Like, I don't believe you should get drunk and go to Vegas and just get married to someone, like, I don't think that's wise. And again, going back to religion, like that's not a wise choice. Like, if you believe and you try to follow, what God says, like that's not walking in wisdom. That's not letting iron sharpen iron. So I think the vetting process is really important, and it's establishing that, and having your negotiables, and having a heart where your heart posture is, okay, am I seeing this right? What am I willing to compromise in a way that doesn't compromise my values? But like you said, kind of like, what's most important? What do I want?
Well, I'm going to quickly say, could there be some rare circumstance where there are literally no warning signs about someone? I can't say it never happens, but I don't like to bring in my personal life because it's really not relevant, but let's just say I have some relevant experience with this in what I do in my day job. And it is, despite what a lot of females say about there were no warning signs, I have found that when professionals review their cases, you can find there actually were warning signs. They just chose to overlook them. And one of the prime examples, if you look at the actual Institute for preventing domestic violence, there's a whole page there where a survivor tells her story, and she's trying to educate women about avoiding these kind of situations. She says, in my own story, there was no warning signs. But then I'm reading through her story, and she says, so when the sexy bad boy first showed interest in me, I was elated. And I thought to myself, wait a minute, she used the term bad boy to refer to this guy. So this is right when she's first starting to date him, the time when she says there are no warning signs, and yet she calls him bad boy. Her words, not mine. Why'd she choose that term? Now, that tells me that whether she admits it to herself or not, there were in fact things that she knew weren't good about him. That's why she chose to call him bad boy. She chose to overlook it because she placed greater value on whether it was his looks, his money, something else. She chose to place value on that. And again, she's free to do so, but I kind of look at it like saying, they always say, don't blame the victim, don't blame the victim. And I agree, the victim isn't responsible. You are not responsible for what the other person did. But suppose I'm in the inner streets of Chicago at 3 o'clock in the morning. I go walking into the ghetto with a $100 bill tied around my neck, and I get mugged and robbed. You can say, it's not your fault you got robbed. It's solely the fault of the person who committed the crime against you. And yes, it's wrong. It's still wrong for that person to rob me. But does anyone really feel sorry for me? I mean, can anyone honestly say it wasn't predictable that was going to happen given what you did?
Okay, yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying, but I personally still think that, I mean, if like evil is still evil, like sin is still sin. Like going back to even, I guess, teachings of scripture, like I just think that wrong is still wrong. I don't think that there's justification to justify that. Like I don't think that, and I think doing that puts that in the barrel of, okay, this makes it okay, and that makes it more fine for more people to accept that and to do that. So I think that's just what I think, and I don't.
Okay, and I would say I'm not saying the other person isn't justified in what they did. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that it remains true that you as an individual have an obligation to make smart decisions. If you continually make bad decisions, and for which there are predictable consequences, you can't blame. You bear no responsibility for the outcome.
Right. So I mean, I agree with a part of that. Like I agree that you should put yourself in situations that will be beneficial to you and that will help you and that will keep you safe. If you try to do that, and if someone else does something against you, that is no longer your responsibility. I think it goes back to like, let's make good choices, and like let's try to, yeah, make good choices. Like, are you going to try to go out with a guy that has red flags? Like you said before, like there were red flags that woman had seen before, but she ignored it. Like, are you going to decide to go out with him? Like, a lot of girls will say, yeah, I'm just going to ignore it, and I'm going to think that maybe I can change him. And that goes into the site of, he's going to be a project boy where I think I'm going to fix him. And that's where, going back to dating, a lot of women think that we can change a man, and you can't change a man. So even bringing that up, like don't give your time to someone where you really see red flags, and don't overlook the red flags, because again, if something happens in the future and you look back, you will be able to say, oh wow, I actually saw red flags and I ignored them. So, and whenever you choose to ignore those things, it's not going to do anything but hurt you. And I think that's something that a lot of people fall into, even men fall into, like you can accidentally ignore things because you are trying to date someone for their potential. Like we cannot date for potential. We can't. Like men shouldn't do it with women, and women shouldn't do it with men. Like you have to date the person, you have to be okay with who they are and who they are now and today. And then if anything else happens in the future, like if you believe in their goals and aspirations and dreams, that's amazing, and like support it. But if you're not okay with who they are today, then whenever you marry them, you can't be mad at anybody but yourself if they don't end up changing. And that's kind of like what I think.
Okay, and I would agree with you there, but it's just my experience is most women don't, in effect, don't do that. If I watch, and there are a lot of them. I mean, I do some of this on my channel. It's not the only topic I cover, but I watch a lot of other channels like Taylor the Fiend and others who he constantly reviews these videos where women are going off about, I can't believe my ex-husband treated me that way. I can't believe that guy treated me so poorly. All the while saying, all I really want is a nice guy. All I really want is a guy with these good qualities of a good husband and a good father. Yet they keep going back to these guys and are surprised when the result is the same. And again, I'm not accusing you specifically of this or anyone else, but it seems that even if the woman can articulate that intellectually, again, you want to know what a person really believes, look at what they do, not what they say. And the vast majority of women who are making these complaints keep going back to the same kind of men that they say they don't want, which shows me their actions don't match their words. They're really choosing, despite what they say, to value physical attractiveness, status, and whatever else, as opposed to the qualities of a husband and a father, which they are free to do, but then they shouldn't be surprised when they're over 30 and childless, or over 30 and I shouldn't say childless, over 30 and not married.
So I'm just curious, where did you find like a lot of these women that you've found? Is this on YouTube? Is this like studies that you've read? Like, where is this information coming from?
I would say go. I mean, you can do Google, you can do YouTube, you can do TikTok. Go into the search bar, type where are all the good men, and you will literally find hundreds of videos posted by influencers. Some of them large, some of them small, where they're just women asking, where are all the good men? Where are the men that are interested in commitment? I'm tired of all these guys that all they want to do is just hook up. I want romance. I want commitment. I mean, it's everywhere. Also, I sent you an article from the Sydney Morning Herald that I thought captured it. That was actually written in 2008, so it's more than 10 years ago now that they were saying that, but I think it's even more relevant today. The Huffington Post is another one, very, very left-leaning, not Christian political website, asking why is it that at college, there was an article, I think it's called "Why Are College-Educated Millennial Women Having Such Trouble Finding Dating Partners?" So where am I finding it? I mean, I'd say go do the searches yourself. I'm fully confident you're gonna find it, and if not, yeah, I'm free. I'm more than willing to send you 10, 15 links right after this.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I've watched some stuff like that, but I haven't watched too many videos with that type of I guess content. I'll definitely do that. But I think just from my perspective, friends that I have and other people that I've talked to, I think there is a couple things that are missing in the dating pool. Like I agree with some of the points that you brought up, but I also think that like you shouldn't, again, I don't like using the word settle, but you shouldn't just marry someone and date someone because you think that you have no other options available, because you will end up not happy, not content, because you will always, and actually a friend that I have, I had a discussion with him the other day about this. He's like, if you do that, you will end up not content, and you will always end up comparing your relationship to other relationships. He's like, if I did that, and if I ended up settling and not being with the woman that I am, I would have been comparing her to other women, being jealous that I couldn't have had a better attractive woman, or like this or that. And he explained the same thing because he asked her opinion, because I was talking about it with him. So I don't think that you should just settle, because you will end up not happy. You will end up in the comparison game, which is extremely unhealthy for your mental health, physical health, spiritual health, and you will end up in a cycle that will literally destroy your life. Like, I don't think comparison is healthy. So whenever you get in the lane of, oh, I'm just going to be with this person because I have no other options, because I think that no one else is going to want me, and this is just the last chance that I have. Okay, well, if you do that, what if a couple years down the line, you end up getting divorced, and then you do get everything taken from you, this and that. So I think it's a bigger picture and a bigger topic than like what we think it is, and I think it just needs to be dealt with in a good way.
Okay, and I would say yes, I would agree. You shouldn't just marry someone because you're desperate and you have no other options. But I think especially in the case of women, the longer you wait, the fewer options you have. So that is in effect what women who don't seek a husband actively from the time they're young end up having to settle and end up being less satisfied. Hence, I think the one of the major problems is not enough young women are taught, look, you're free to do whatever you want. It's your choice. Just know that if you choose to not act, if you choose, hey, if you want a career, great. If you want a husband, great. If you want whatever else, great. Just know you can't necessarily have them all. You need to decide what's most important to you. And like all decisions in life, making one decision necessarily means sacrificing the result of the other. You have to decide what's most important to you. And if you decide, and as I said in my video, if you decide, look, I'm not going to be happy unless I marry a man who's over 6 feet tall, makes $100,000 a year, great husband, great father, and all these other factors, you can do that. That is your prerogative and your choice. But it might also mean you never get married. And
right.
I know the example I gave, sounds so ridiculous, but I think it really is the same thing that's happening on the other side. And that's if you had a man who said, "Look, I'm committed to only marrying a supermodel. It's all I want, along with all these other characteristics. I'm gonna settle for nothing less." Like it would just be hilarious laughter from everyone who he met, saying, "Look, man, you aren't that great, and you're never gonna be able to. Yeah, that kind of woman, even if she exists, is never gonna be interested in you. If
Right.
you decide that's what you want, fine. Be happy staying single." And that's really the way I feel looking at some of these women who are over the age, 35, 40 years old, overweight, children from multiple fathers, talking about how they're holding out for a billionaire who owns multiple properties, who's good looking and everything else. It's just like, have fun being single, honey. And further, I don't feel particularly good about my tax dollars being used to fund your lifestyle with your multiple kids from multiple fathers. Those are decisions you made that you now have to bear the consequences of. Someone who's not involved in the process, should not be forced to subsidize your bad decisions.
Right. So, and then there's even the point of, if you do decide to get married and have a family, there's sometimes, actually, I know a couple situations about this. I won't get too heavy into detail, but if once you have kids, right, there's things that happen to a woman's body, and it's like she did everything to give children to you, and then it's like some men decide they're not attracted to their wife anymore after that. Like, what a slap in the face that is. Like, I decided to give up my body, to give up my time, like to give up having a career, and then you just decide that you're not attracted to me anymore because my body changed because of that. And I know there's different things that can be done surgically, which, I'm not against, but not all women want to put themselves through something. So it's like, is that right? Like, and that goes
I
back.
would say no, it isn't. And again, I'd say if a man and a woman are going to have a successful marriage, they need to both be committed to sticking it out. I'm not going to give men a free pass here and say it's acceptable for them to divorce their wives, if they're still attractive enough. I would say men and women either way, you shouldn't be getting married unless you're both willing to sign that contract saying if you initiate divorce, the party who initiates divorce loses everything. Um,
Right.
but yes.
Yeah. I mean, yes, like I think that's fair. Like, I don't think you should be able to just get out of that. Even if you do make a ton of money and you are super attractive and this and that, like I don't think all of those things make creates a way out. Like, that's just not what I think. And I think people that think that way, and I know some different channels, their followings do think like that. Like, I know some of Kevin Samuel's channels thinks like that, and it's almost like a free pass. And like I don't agree with that.
Okay,
If
and
you
I know you mentioned Kevin Samuels and Fresh and Fit in your video, both of which I'm familiar with. What I'm going to say is those channels. At least I haven't really watched a lot of Kevin Samuels. I've watched some Fresh and Fit, and as I said, I kind of feel like most of their stuff is staged. But in any case, they're pretty open about the fact they're not teaching guys to commit. They're teaching guys to get laid. They're saying if you want to get laid, this is what you're going to do. The guy who runs that channel is pretty open about the fact that he has no intention of settling down. He's in the game to get laid, and if women are willing to go to bed with him, I mean, hey, that's your prerogative. But it's not like the guy lied to you. He was open. He's being extremely open about the fact that's what he's in the game for. Which
right,
gets back to my original point. A lot of these women are attracted to these kinds of men. They go have fun in the bedroom with him and then cry when he won't commit. I mean, did you not understand this was going to happen beforehand? I mean, it's one thing if he explicitly lied, and even
right,
then he's gonna. I would say you still have an obligation to vet better than that. But if the guy said from the start he wasn't interested in a serious relationship, who really is at fault when he says he's not willing to commit?
right. Yeah, and I would agree with that. I would think, like I said before, the vetting process is extremely important. But if someone is telling you from the beginning, like some of what they do is they're not very serious, they don't really care about commitment, then like, is it wise to continue to see them? Well, no, it's not. And that's where I would say it's not. Like, you can't freaking talk to them. It doesn't matter how hot you think they are, how much money they have, like this, like you can't do it because you're gonna end up pissed at yourself. And that's something that I do agree with, like, and I do stand by that stance that I said. So I definitely agree with that. And that's along the lines of like learning how to date better, learning how to choose wisely and to date with purpose and be um I'm like losing the words that I'm going to say, but just date with purpose, like I don't believe in wandering and like just saying, oh, like I'll date every single person that wants to give me attention. Like I don't side with that.
Okay, well, at this point, we're about to reach the hour mark. I know you said you really didn't want this to go more than an hour, so out of respect for your time, I'll say if you want to put an end to it here, I'm willing to. Otherwise, if at this point, if there are comments, if anyone has any questions specifically for Jenna or myself, I haven't been focusing on the chat too hard, but if you'd like to, now's the time to put them in. Or Jenna, I mean, are you ready to be done? Because if so, I'll respect your time.
Yeah, if someone has a couple questions, I can take like maybe a couple questions.
Okay, I do want to point out that there was a super chat made earlier. I usually make a point of reading all super chats. We were really getting going there, so I wasn't gonna stop. But thank you to it was Coding Jesus made a super chat. So Coding Jesus, thank you very much. I'm sorry I didn't get to your comment, but Night Shift let me know about that. Otherwise, I'm looking at the chat now. I see. Let's see. Ghost 000. Never mind. He's having a conversation with Jenna Harmon, who I'm gonna assume came from your channel.
Yeah.
Okay. My grandpa got remarried at 75 and extremely happy. Oh, good for him. Wandering Abroad says, a woman having standards is not a problem. However, society is now at the point that if a man has standards, he's a bigot and a pig, and if a woman has pages of standards, it's okay. I will say, in my experience, I think that's not an unfair statement. Women are told never. I hear women get told routinely, never settle for what's less than you deserve. On the other hand, if a man says, she's a little overweight for me, he's called a misogynist and everything else. I mean, to that I say, look, people are free to have whatever standards they want. If you don't want to date a person who doesn't have brown hair or blonde hair or whatever else, that's your choice. You are free to accept or reject anyone for any reason. No one is entitled to your time and attention. However, it goes both ways. Just as someone else is not entitled to your time and attention, you're not entitled to theirs. And I think so long as everybody accepts that, like I said, have the serenity to accept the things you can't change, the courage to change the things you can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
Yeah, I agree with that.
All right. Well, if there are no more questions, then at this point, Jenna, thank you very much for coming on my channel. I'll let you give yourself a shout out, and if there's any other links you'd like me to include to any other social media platforms, I can put those up in this video once it's done. Awesome.
Yeah, thanks so much for the conversation. I think it was beneficial.
Okay, and I think it was too. Hope everyone else got something out of this. And as always, I ever since I started my channel, I don't often talk about this, but I call myself my 2 cents for a reason. I don't claim to be a scholar. I don't claim to be an expert. This is me giving you my 2 cents. You can consider it. You can throw it out. Do whatever you want. It's just my 2 cents. You can take it for what it's worth. Thank you, everyone.